When asked in a 1980s interview what made him so popular, David Hockney replied, "I'm interested in ways of looking and thinking about it in simple ways. Everyone can look, it's just a question of how hard they're willing to look, isn't it?" He's never stopped asking how we see, and crucially, how we might see differently. Whether it's with a paintbrush, Polaroids, a fax machine, or even an iPad, Hockney has spent decades exploring new ways of capturing time and space. And long before digital art became the buzzword that it is today, he was already treating technology not as a threat to tradition, but as a new medium of translating the world exactly as he sees it. David Hockney has said that he works every single day, so it's hardly surprising that he's always thinking of ways of innovating his practice. Since establishing his personal style, he's taken familiar technologies and pushed them to new and novel artistic ends. Around the early 1980s, Hockney invented what he called joiners, large-scale photographic collages made by assembling dozens, sometimes hundreds, of separate photos into a single image. These began as Polaroid snapshots and 35mm prints of a scene, which Hockney would manually arrange like a patchwork. Unlike a single photograph, which freezes one moment from one viewpoint, his joiners reveal a scene from multiple perspectives and moments in time, blurring the line between still photography and animated film. Hockney believed that this technique was closer to how the eye actually sees, not a single fixed image, but a series of changing glances and focus. In 1986, he began using the photocopier as a literal screen printer, creating his homemade prints. He approached the office machine like a printing press he could create with, discovering that he could layer colours by running images through one-colour toner cartridges and repeatedly swapping colours to build up an image. Suddenly, the printmaking process, once a slow, multi-step process which required heavy technician assistance, became a far more immediate and solitary experience. Because of the immediacy of the medium, Hockney actually said that it was the closest that he ever got in printing to what it's like to paint. It also produced a new texture in his work thanks to the slightly grainy half-tone effects of the printer, which became part of the overall appeal of the work. Clearly, in this era of fascination with office technology, Hockney's interest was even piqued by the fax machine. In the late 80s, fax technology was used to transmit business information across phone lines. And in this, Hockney saw a fun opportunity to fax hand-drawn images to his friends. This playful experiment then led to a bigger idea. Why not send art long distance over phone lines? In 1989, when invited to participate in the Sao Paulo Biennial, he actually participated remotely via fax. Instead of shipping physical artworks to Brazil, he created faxable compositions over the phone which could be assembled on site. This exercise raised questions not only about how artists create their work, but about how they share it with the public. His real watershed moment in the 21st century came with his adoption of the iPhone and iPad. As soon as the first iPad came out, Hockney was immediately intrigued by its possibilities. And by 2009, he was using it to sketch everything from sunsets to flowers on the tiny canvas of the iPhone. Using just his finger on the tiny screen, he transformed the iPhone into a digital sketchbook that was far more portable and immediate than any other medium that had come before. When the iPad came out in 2010, he obviously relished in the larger canvas size and more precision that it afforded.
My friend Celia thinks the iPad was just made for me. She said it's perfect.
He actually famously said that sometimes I get so carried away that I wipe my fingers afterwards thinking that there's paint on them, showing just how evocative the experience is for him. The iPad has borne some of Hockney's largest bodies of prints, both in scale and number, from his Yosemite suite to the much celebrated Arrival of Spring. The Arrival of Spring conveys the rural landscape of Yorkshire transitioning from late winter to spring across 50 iPad drawings. Each drawing was created on plein air on the iPad, sometimes one a day, documenting the gradual burst of colour of life as spring unfolded. Like the photocopier and the fax machine that came before, the iPad offered Hockney immediacy like never before. Of course, critics at the time questioned whether it was real art, a sentiment that critics love to fall back on when they're uncomfortable with the unfamiliar and simply don't know how to navigate it. But with Hockney, you simply have to trust the process. He's always a few steps ahead and history catches up with him eventually. There's no one quite like David Hockney. He's never neatly fitted into one genre. He never has and he never will. He's never tried to shape himself into a preconceived mould. Rather, he breaks it and reshapes it time and time again to take art to new places that it's never been before. Nowhere is this more evident than in his unflinching embrace of technology. And through decades of ceaseless experimentation, he's expanded not only what art looks like, but how we, the viewers, look at it.